We had such a strong start to 2019 and all of a sudden things sort of went belly up. I invited Rian Prinsloo, a senior portfolio manager at Efficient Private Clients, to give us some perspective and to hopefully give us some insight into your crystal ball. Welcome, Rian.
Thank you, Dejana. Thank you for having me.
Rian has mentioned, locally we experienced such a strong start with global markets also pushing towards new heights. What went wrong?
So I think you have to first just consider what went right, because at the end of last year, what was happening is the United States was just growing exponentially faster than the rest of the world. The US economy was looking very strong, the rest of the world not that much. So we saw a lot of liquidity moving from the rest of the world into the United States, pulling down asset prices. What happened at the first start of this year is we saw a sort of reversal of that trend. So money flowing out of the US as the market started to realize that the US economy maybe isn't as strong as expected. Money started flowing out of the US into developing economies like South Africa, strengthening our rand, and just pushing up asset prices globally. So I think that was sort of the main sort of feature of the first half of this year.
Are we in for a global market meltdown? All of the signs, I mean, reading social media, looking into the news, everybody's indicating the so-called inverted yield curve. All of these technical points are mentioned. Are we in for a meltdown, or are we actually okay?
No, I don't think so. And the reason I say that is if you look at the big economic blocks globally, they're still in a good position. If you look at the United States, unemployment's at a record low. The consumer is still very strong. We saw it in the sales of Walmart. We saw it in general retail sales. So the consumer in a good position. If you go across to Europe, yes, they are affected by the trade war. So the European economy has been taking a bit of pressure, but manufacturing is stabilizing. And if you go across to China, also consumer confidence is at a record high. So I don't think we're in a position where we are seeing this sort of massive meltdown. I think it's just a sort of mid-cycle return to mean growth.
Okay, so given the current market environment, given the fact that the South African market has been under enormous pressure for the last, call it 6 years, what are we doing from a portfolio management perspective to sort of generate upside for our clients? I mean, it's been very tough. Inflation's on the rise. What are we doing to generate inflation outperforming returns at least?
So it's a good question. I think the one advantage we have is inflation is quite subdued, and so there is opportunities in our local market to identify companies and opportunities where we can outperform inflation, but there's not this massive growth driver. So how we position portfolios is the big growth component of our portfolio construction, we want to get that from offshore. So either directly or indirectly, there's a lot of ways we can build that into the portfolio to take part in sort of the global thematic themes we see. But then locally, our market is quite cheap. We see attractive dividend yields, we see attractive dividend growth, and also the companies aren't too overextended, so those dividends are covered. So I think locally you invest to preserve your capital, where globally you want your growth in your portfolio.
So looking at a basket of emerging economies, I think we spoke about this earlier, relative to the other emergings, I mean, are we really looking that bad? I often get the impression that we are so close to South Africa and the politics and the social setup here, that we often miss the actual opportunities from an offshore investment perspective.
Definitely, it's an excellent point. If you look at the global bond market, there's only about 3% of the global bond market that yields 5% and more. That's just because of quantitative easing in most of your developed worlds pulling down bond yields. So you have to go and look for returns somewhere, and South Africa is an attractive market for that. Also, our bond market is still very protected in that our rules are still strong. Most of our bonds are rand denominated, so we don't need an IMF bailout or anything like that. So our local market is actually quite attractive at these levels.
So the volatility could even create certain opportunities.
Definitely,
okay.
Definitely.
So as Warren Buffett puts it, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. I think one has to consider a well-diversified investment approach and build a plan around your needs and make sure that you stick to it. Speak to you soon.